Want me to start?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
The following is the agenda for the regular council meeting of the Borough of Pompton Lakes Mayor and Council, a municipal corporation in the County of Passaic. The meeting will begin at 7:30 p.m. on May 12, 2021, in the municipal building consistent with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. The meeting will be open for public comments. Public comments may be made at designated times during the meeting and may be submitted in writing to be read aloud during the meeting. Comments to be read at the meeting must be submitted at least 24 hours prior to the meeting by email or to the clerk's office at 25 Lenox Avenue, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, and must be of length that can reasonably be read within the time limit for public comment.
Thank you. Can we stand for a flag salute, please?
To the flag of the United States, for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through a notice posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, mailed to all requested and paid for same, and published in Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here.
Council President DeLine.
Here.
Councilman Bay.
Here.
Councilwoman Kent. Here. Councilwoman Polidori. Here. Councilwoman Ranker.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening as our Borough Attorney, David Rutenberg, and our Borough Administrator, Kevin Boyle.
Okay, thank you. Before we start, I'd like to give my updates, my COVID update from last week. As of Tuesday, May 4th, we have 11 new cases of the virus in Pompton Lakes in the last week. These are the lowest weekly numbers in over a year, which is a great sign for Pompton Lakes. These numbers in the state, the numbers in the state are also declining. While numerous children are still testing positive, they continue to have little or no complications with recovery. We continue to mourn the loss of the 15 residents who passed due to the virus. Pompton Lakes has about a 60% vaccination rate of an adult population as of April 19th. Anyone age 16 and above is eligible for a vaccine. As I've mentioned before, Passaic County has a vaccination site at the Modell's Shopping Center on Route 46. The Health Department for Pompton Lakes and Wayne has a vaccination site at the former Macy's. To date, we have vaccinated over 7,000 Wayne and Pompton Lakes residents. Please visit Wayne Township webpage to schedule an appointment. The state finally opened back up. The state will finally be opening up in the next 2 weeks. Major changes will be taking place and the restrictions will slowly be lifted. We can finally sit at a bar and have a drink or a bite to eat with our friends. Please see the chart below for more details. I'm excited to announce our first event in over a year. We will have a Memorial Day parade Sunday, May 30th at noon. That's the actual parade. The ceremony will start at 11:30 at the Memorial on Lakeside. What's the street there? That's Skylar and Jefferson and Lakeside? Yeah. Jefferson and Lakeside. I'm happy to say that we plan to have summer camp and Pompton Day as well. Our summer concert series at the library will start in June. We have all worked very hard to get to this point, and I thank all of our residents for continuing to do the right thing to get us back to normal. So that's my update on COVID.
Oh, yes.
Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Council President DeLine, Councilwoman Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up, give your name and address, and you have about 5 minutes.
Helene Zablocki, 6 Butler Street. My question is directed to Mr. Rutenberg. Mr. Rutenberg, I'm wondering why I didn't get a response to my letter to you from April 17th.
Ma'am, I am the borough's attorney. I act at the request of the borough, not at the request of each of the residents. Otherwise, that would become prohibitively expensive for the borough. But I'm glad you're here because I'm pleased to provide this response. You raised a concern whether it was a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act for Councilperson Riker to participate by phone. It is not. Moreover, it is not the obligation under that act to also provide the same avenue of participation to citizens. As long as there's an avenue of participation like this, you're free to attend. The borough has no obligation to provide telephone access as well.
So that actually wasn't my question. My question was why you didn't respond to my letter. And that's because,
So I'll answer that. So what I'm going to first ask you to do, you can't address anybody up here except me, and then I'll pass it on. So if you would, address the questions to me. So we can't have residents reaching out to our attorneys because they charge us per hour to write responses to everyone who responds. If we feel, in the time I've been involved, we've never had an attorney reach out to any of our residents. If you have a concern, you're more than welcome to speak to me or Borough Administrator. They will pass it on, and we will get an answer for you. That's how you'll get the answer.
I CC'd you and Mr. Boyle on that letter,
Yes?
and neither one of you thought it was important enough to tell me what Mr. Rutenberg just said, the reason why I wasn't responded to?
We would respond to it in a council meeting like we're doing right now. We're not going to respond individually. I get a lot of responses and a lot of emails daily. I can't respond to all of them.
So had I not come tonight to the meeting, I would not have known any of this.
No, you would follow up, and you could have asked our administrator or myself what the answer is, and we would have told you.
I can't tell you how disappointed I am
Okay, I'm sorry
in that
for that.
response.
Sorry for that.
And I plan to pursue this.
You should.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up. Okay.
Hi, Erin Shazat, 314 Woodlawn Avenue. So I had sent you all an email regarding the cannabis meeting on the 29th, and Councilwoman Kent was nice enough to invite me to come tonight, and I really appreciate that. I didn't realize that was an option, so here I am, and thank you. So I'll just read the email, I guess, because it'll just go on record. Is that accurate? Okay. I came to council in November of 2018 to speak regarding cannabis business in Pompton Lakes. At that point, the state was just considering legalization via legislative measures. Even then, council was considering preemptively closing the door to any such businesses in town. Since then, people of our state have had the chance to vote legalization into law, and I think that was the best way for it to happen. It shows how overwhelmingly popular this issue is for so many reasons. What I presented in 2018 were facts and numbers from other states that have legalized cannabis. How that new industry had turned around the economies of communities that were hurting, raised housing values of surrounding areas, and generated much-needed tax revenue. This time around, I'd like to just talk about opportunity. For the council to consider shutting the door on the possibility of new industry setting up here seems terribly short-sighted. We don't even know for sure that any businesses will even want to move in. Why put up a wall and let another town reap the benefits that we are unable to see? Since 2017, the U.S. cannabis industry has averaged 27.5% growth each year. No other industry even comes close. Even with a small dispensary, there are various employment positions to be filled. The pandemic has pushed people out of long-held careers where they may be looking for new paths to take. We are living in extraordinary times. The pandemic has done a lot of damage for sure, but I am seeing so much creative potential in its ruins. So let's leave doors open to visionary entrepreneurs who may see a ton of potential in our little town. Let's not brand Pompton Lakes as the town with outdated fears of the unknown. Let's show that we have forward-thinking leaders that will take a leap of faith and just see what the future holds. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to approach? Please. You.
Okay, my name is Richard Brummel. Some of you know me by now. I live at 70 Wanacue Avenue. So I had a chance on the weekend of the 2nd of May to interact with Mayor Sarah and a number of the rest of the council over the issue of a large tree, a beautiful kind of classic tree behind my building that was, there was a rumor that it was going to be cut down. And I got an arborist report that said that tree was an extraordinary specimen. It was 100 years old, 100 feet tall. And more than that, it's a visual landmark coming into Pompton Lakes. It's a very prominent sycamore tree. And eventually we all discovered that the rumors were unfounded, and the utility company was just going to prune some branches of another tree. But the issue was raised that if this were on private property and it were a private homeowner, that the tree could be cut down with no notice to anybody. And it took a lot of detective work to figure out that the homeowners, the landowners in that area didn't want to cut it down, and the utility didn't want to cut it down. But it struck, I had the Shade Tree Committee came out and took a look at it, and they expressed kind of that their hands were tied. They didn't have any power under your existing laws. And so I understand that there is some discussion in population now about having some kind of tree law that protects trees on private property, and would give a greater measure of protection to what are ecological and visual and community resources, assets. And so I hope that that discussion is ongoing. And I also noticed today, though, in a related matter, that the Borough of Pompton Lakes, under their own discretion, has targeted 3 trees. They have big red X's spray painted on them on Colfax Avenue in the vicinity of 1031 Colfax. So I sent all of you an email today because it seems like the destruction of these trees is imminent. And those are healthy, beautiful oak trees that are kind of landmarks on Colfax Avenue. They're probably the most prominent oak trees, the most prominent large trees on Colfax. 2 of them have absolutely no defects that I could see. One of them has some lichen growing on it. It has a little dieback on the crown, not a lot though, which suggests that it may have a problem with some kind of insect infestation that can be remedied. These are things that an arborist can remedy these with treatment. So, these trees could be cut down any time from what I understand. And so I really urge you to, if you kind of got religion about the value of your trees in your community, when we had this incident with the sycamore tree behind my house, and even the mayor expressed his support for urging the homeowner to preserve it, if that was the case, I would urge you to immediately intervene in this planned destruction of these trees. From what I can gather, the issue is that there's no sidewalk that could go around these trees. And so someone decided that this is a good year to make the sidewalk. But when you consider the inconvenience of going out into the road or rerouting the sidewalk on maybe an easement, maybe obtaining an easement from the residents, maybe making some kind of arrangement if it's so important to have a sidewalk. Now, these trees have been there. These are 60 to 80-year-old trees. So people have survived without a sidewalk for 60 or 80 years. My point about trees is partially sentimental, but also these are very important ecological structures. We have a global climate catastrophe, and this is affecting animals, insects, birds. All of these species are diminishing, and these trees are habitat for these animals. It's food for them, and the insects and the birds. In addition to having a lot of ecological contributions to the community in terms of fresh oxygen, taking carbon dioxide out of the air, also being very visually appealing, very giving the sense of a pastoral community, a community with old trees. This is an asset to the community. So I don't understand why these trees are being cut down, but more than that, why they be cut down so kind of cavalierly. I don't know what agency had a public hearing about this, but certainly the broader community was not aware of it. There were no signs that said, hey, these trees are going to be cut down. If that bothers you, come to this meeting. That's the kind of thing that we need.
Sorry, you got to wrap it up.
That was 4.5 minutes.
All right, so let me answer. So first of all, you did approach me.
I just want to finish one more thing.
Quickly.
So there are 2 points there. So number one, I urge you to stop whatever they're doing with these trees right away and let some kind of a process go on that involves the public. Even if it was before the Shade Tree Committee, it was not a well-publicized decision.
Thank you.
And beyond that, I would also urge you to look at revising your tree laws to allow to give the borough some power over especially large trees to start with. Maybe a 100-year-old tree, that's something that should be a consultation process, a public process.
Okay, thank you. So, first to respond to your points, I did most of the legwork to find out about that tree and spent a lot of time and energy in finding out after you brought it to my attention and then to find out nothing was being done with the tree. So that was a mistake on somebody's part to report that way.
It was a rumor. I acknowledge it was a rumor.
But we shouldn't be going by, I let you talk.
It was an important test case to see what would really happen if that
listen,
happened.
I let you talk. I did not interrupt you. Please let me talk.
Okay.
So I'm going to be interrupted. So we don't usually work in town on rumors. We go by fact. So we did work it out, and I'm glad it worked out right. It is a beautiful tree, and I'm glad it was saved, and I'm all glad for that. Moving on to the other trees on Colfax Avenue, they're doing destruction to the road, and it's costing us a lot of money. We are going to replant trees there, the shade tree, I know you don't want to hear this, and you should be involved maybe on the shade tree commission. The shade tree has already looked at these trees and approved it. So this is something we do involve the community, that was involved through the shade tree commission. We don't announce every tree we're cutting down to the borough, to the residents. We just couldn't do that.
Well, you can have a
But
sign that
again,
says these 3 trees
we're
will be
not
cut
going to
down.
put signs up.
Kill you.
We're not going to put signs up.
Well, that would be
Okay,
useful to the community.
I'm gonna ask you to sit down if you keep interrupting. Okay, please, don't interrupt. Okay? It's pulling up our roads, it's doing damage to our sewers, and it's in the way, and some of those trees, and I'm gonna let our borough administrator talk too, are dangerous. Our arborist says they're dangerous. One of them is dead. So,
One of them is not dead. They all have greenery on them.
Okay, but
One
it's
of
not
them
about
has some
greenery,
lighting
it's
going
around
on.
if they're safe.
So I'd like to see these reports.
Okay.
And what you are...
You can Oprah any report you want.
Do an arborist with
You
credentials?
can Oprah, yes.
Yes? Well, I think it's a shame.
Okay.
I think it's a real shame, and I don't see the damage to the roads.
All right, I'm gonna have to ask you, because you only get 5 minutes, but the last point I'm gonna make, and please, again, don't interrupt me, we will not be policing private property. You know, no resident in our town wants to be policed on a tree that's on their own property to
I
tell
think
them...
that should be your position, not the whole council. I
I've
don't
spoken to
speak for the whole council.
I've spoken to the council.
Yeah.
I've
Well, I know
spoken.
Ms. Kent was interested.
I don't think Ms. Kent was interested
She
in that.
expressed interest in it.
Our legacy trees are something we could discuss. We've never discussed it, so.
Okay,
I'm
but
okay with it.
on private property? On your homeowner's property?
Yeah, private property, that gets a little funky.
That's not unheard of there. Communities all across New Jersey,
No,
all
it's
across
not-
the
it is
country, we
unheard
should
of.
have those
I
kind of
checked,
rules.
there's only one town in the area that does it, actually.
Well, up in Long Island, and many towns there.
Well, I don't know about Long Island, I can only tell you here. All right, thank you for your comments. Oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna let the administrator speak.
Well, there's nothing more to say. When this project began, we got the approval to do the road project. Shade Tree Commission involved in all of our programs, including, we want to make sure we have any similar rules to do with what we do a major project down involved. They went out, to the engineers, and this is where, that construction was one tree line transition on the 9 sidewalk. Shade Tree Commission approved removal, and the removal.
Well, if those kind of trees don't get protected, I don't know what the Shade Tree Committee is doing.
Well, you
If
should
Shade Tree
talk to
has
them.
no use, if that's the way it exercises its discretion, then something's wrong.
Okay, well, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Someone in the head, please step up.
Hi, I'm Gita Ingman Hanson Curtis, and I live at 111 Ramapo Avenue in town. Just thank you for speaking so clearly about that issue. And I'd just like to add on the marijuana issue is your master plan, is to have these apartment buildings and attract millennials and Zers here, and your attitude towards marijuana is decidedly boomer. Like, I want to say, okay, boomer, I'm an Xer, so I can do that to you. It just makes no sense with your master plan. So I would rethink that a little bit, because if they can move to a town which has just as nice accommodations, why wouldn't they? And that they have open marijuana laws, and then we have the martyrs on the council be like, oh, I'm a mother, oh. Yeah, you have alcohol and bars in the town. You're still a mother. You don't care about that? That's a little more violent. So, there's that. That's all I'm going to say. I have a lot more to say, but I won't do that.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Hi, everyone. Peter Shazat, 314 Woodlawn Avenue. Last time I spoke more about kind of the social justice issue regarding marijuana in our town. Now I'd really just like to express really what a unique opportunity we have at this point in time, and that it is really a small window to be first to market in this area. Whoever does this first and whoever does this right is going to pull in business from the surrounding area. And there's no doubt about it, Wayne's already declared that they're not going to do it. Imagine if half of Wayne came here to buy whatever marijuana products they were going to buy. How much revenue we would gather, even above, in addition to the 2% tax. You get all the foot traffic to the other stores. This will not be the case 2 years from now. Because the stores will be well established in other towns. The opportunity will be over. This is a first to market issue, and for us to delay this is foolish. And I don't really want to hear anything about taxes ever again if we don't take advantage of this particular issue. So, thank you.
Thank you. But, just to respond to your tax comment, if a small mom and pop store opens up in town and they revenue of $50,000, a $10,000 to us is not a big benefit in the big scheme of the town. It's not like we're getting hundreds of
Well, you can
thousands.
also have a grow operation. You can do plenty
There's
of
no
things.
space to do grow operations in
It's all DuPont.
DuPont has already said they will not do it. DuPont has already offered the information they will not use their property for that reason. So that takes that piece out of it.
Well, you're also not really applying any pressure either, so.
No, I've called them twice on it.
And you were advocating for them to have a grow
I have not
operation on their
advocated one way or
property?
the other. I asked them what their plans were.
Oh, yeah, it's very passive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion, Riker.
Councilman Bennett, Council President Klein. All in favor? Aye. Against? All right, so at this point, and look, we've done more than most towns in listening to the residents. Most mayors have reached out to me and said, we didn't do what you guys are doing over there. So I do appreciate the council making that offer. I do, making the offer to the public to come and speak. We felt it was fair to hear everybody's responses. And the first meeting was canceled, thinking we'd have a huge turnout, which we ended up not having, but I wasn't prepared for that. So it was on, News 12, it was on the record, it was on social media, it was on our borough website. So, this is the way we're moving. Now, I'm going to start by asking the attorney to quickly go over what we had talked about at the meeting. But before we get there, I'm then going to ask all the council, if they'd like to make a statement, you can. And then, how do you support the ordinance preparation? We're not voting on anything yet until we prepare an ordinance, but I have to know where the council stands on preparing an ordinance. So I'm going to let the attorney talk first, and then we'll go.
Good evening, everyone. So at our April 29 town hall meeting, we discussed the impacts of the new law legalizing marijuana, and specifically the 6 categories of industry that the change in the law created, and the crossroads that those industries would put each municipality in terms of determining whether they would do nothing and allow each category of industry to operate, whether they would decide to opt in to allow one, some, or all of the categories of industry to operate, or whether they would opt out at this point, that would effectively preclude any of the 6 categories of industry from operating within the township, but from housing their offices or their operations in the township. Those categories are cultivation, manufacturing, wholesaling, distribution, retail sales, and delivery. And I should have added that municipalities have until August 21 to take that action, to do nothing, opt in, or opt out.
Okay, that explains it. Thank you. The other thing I'd like to bring up before I go to the council is, whichever way we decide, let's remember that we are not saying we do not believe that residents are not allowed to use marijuana in town. There will be a type of Uber available from every spot to Uber into Pompton Lakes, or into Wayne, or into Oakland, or to anyone who wants marijuana from the site that has it. That's already in the legislation. So, it's not that anybody up here is banning marijuana for use in any town, and we have no opinion on that because it was voted 2-1 by the residents of the state. And we all accept that and understand that. What we're deciding is, does the town want to take a piece of this action now, see what goes on in the future, or just say no to it? I can tell you that speaking to the other mayors in the towns surrounding us, most of them have opted out at this point, and to wait to see what happens as we move forward. Can always change their mind. I know some people are saying, well, that'll kill it because, they've already set up somewhere else, and I think someone brought up liquor stores. You see liquor stores coming and going all the time, and they've been around for 100 years. So that option to me doesn't make a lot of sense. The fact of the matter is, any resident that's over the age of 21, by the way, remember, children would not be involved in this in any shape or form, no matter how they got it. So if we have children that are smoking marijuana, it is illegal, no matter where they got it from. So we're talking about adults. If adults want to do it, just like drinking in their own property, no issues whatsoever. Either they're gonna go to a store, local store, I understand the closest one to us right now will probably be Paramus. Things could change, there are some other ones popping up, but if not, it could be Ubered to wherever you wanna be. So with that being said, I'll start on this end and jump back and forth. Just, you can give a little report or how you feel about it. What you'd like to say.
Well, I first want to, I want to thank all the people that came out to the special meeting and voiced their opinion. And I personally wanted that meeting, and I was happy that we had it, because I know other towns in this area did not opt for that. And I think it's very important that we hear from our residents. That doesn't mean that we're going to make everybody happy. We're obviously not probably going to make half the people happy, maybe half not. But I think it's important that you realize as residents, we're going to listen to what your opinions were, and I appreciate that. And I also appreciate our attorney, Mr. Rittenberg, for his explanation. I had a lot of feedback on people who were there and who heard his explanation. It was a very easy, down-to-earth explanation of what our options are, and you want me, am I consenting
How you would
to,
like to see the resolution go, yeah.
So, learning what was available to us, in my opinion, I personally am a more conservative person. I think the town is more of a conservative town. I don't think we don't like to kind of jump into things that haven't been tested. So I personally feel from the people who have reached out to me, I feel that the opt-out initially would be the most prudent way to go, because you could always go back in. I personally wanted to see where we could go with cultivation and manufacturing. I mean, I'd like to see industry versus maybe the retail, but I would like to see true industry come into town, and because I think that would be a wonderful revenue. So in that respect, I was very interested in that. But as far as I can tell, no one's come to town to say, I want to start an industry, I want to cultivate, I want to start a distribution center, as far as I know. So until that happens, if we opt out, we can always opt in when we have a viable industry ready to go, and that would definitely help the tax base. So that's my opinion. But I do thank everyone, and I'm sorry if I don't agree with everybody, but I do feel that's the best for Pompton Lakes right now.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Bennett, I'm going to go to you.
Thank you, Mayor. When this did come to light, I did reach out, a bunch of residents did reach out to me, and I reached out to a bunch of residents to see how they felt. It appeared to be a lot of NIMBY, not in my backyard. They'll vote yes. They want marijuana legalized for various reasons, whether it be social justice, whether it be too many minorities put in jail for a small amount of marijuana, so on and so forth. Opting out seems to buy us a lot of time to see how other communities decide. I know a lot of surrounding towns have already opted out to buy time and to make sure that there's not a lot of time to put the rules in place that we would want to put. That being said, if we were to opt in, I feel there could be a compromise for very limited retail distribution.
Okay, but what are you picking right now?
I'm picking right now, opt in for the very limited retail
So
distribution.
you're opting in for retail?
Are you talking about retail or distribution?
Yeah,
Those are two
which
different
one?
things.
You gotta pick.
I'm sorry, my bad. Retail.
You're opting in for retail.
Very limited retail.
Well, there's no
yes.
such thing as limited retail.
Well, we can decide how limited.
No, we can't.
Yes,
No,
you can let,
We can allow retail
You
or
can-
not allow retail. We can't limit.
We can set the number of stores that can be.
Right.
that's what I'm talking about.
All right, so you gotta say that then. So you want to set the number of stores.
Set the number of stores and locations, yes.
Locations is set by distance from schools, first of all.
We can set zoning.
No, you can't zone it out.
You can zone the
Ridgewood
location where it can be
did that.
located.
We can't zone this out, correct?
No, well, I think what he's saying, we can state what specific zones it would be allowed in. Yes, we can do that.
Okay,
And
so we can do that.
we can, we can limit hours, days of operations, those sorts of things.
Right, those things we can do, yes. Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Paladori?
Thank you. I also want to thank everyone that came to the high school to have an open discussion. I appreciate all the feedback. I have read all of the letters and emails that were sent
So I appreciate the time that it takes to put that into writing and send it. I know that there was a lot of content and a lot of thought and a lot of valuable information. I also learned a lot from listening to the presentation offered by our attorney. But I do personally feel that as a councilwoman, I have a responsibility to make decisions, not based on my opinions or feelings, but on what I think is best for the community. And in my interpretation of what is best, I believe the option that offers the most flexibility, the option that allows us to pivot and make changes when needed, is really the best option in my mind. And for that reason, I will support opting out, because the way I look at opting out, I see it as not saying no, just saying not right now. Because I also agree with Councilwoman Kent in the possibility of future opportunities to look at larger scale production, distribution, cultivating, things of that nature. If in fact property like that were to become available, I hear mention of DuPont, that is private property, so that is not a town decision. But if in fact that were an opportunity at some point down the road, I would be willing to hear that out. I have no interest in being one of the first towns to embrace this in the area. I would prefer to sit back and be patient and wait and watch and see how it works in other communities, because back to that flexibility issue, once you allow it and then you decide it's not right for your community, you can't dial that back and you can't remove a store that has been established. So for that reason only, I am going to agree to opt out at this time.
Thank you. Councilwoman Riker.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I would like to briefly just state, it appears that my opinions have been somewhat misrepresented, whether it's in the press or the Facebook or whatever, based upon comments that I have received from various sources. I was vehement about holding the meeting that we had last week, several weeks ago. I felt that having participated in many seminars, whether they're through the League of Municipalities or through the legal community, it appeared that there was a tremendous amount of misinformation and lack of understanding for what a municipality can do now that the state of New Jersey has approved legalizing marijuana. My feeling was that at an open public forum, our residents would have the opportunity to hear our council, Mr. Rutenberg, present the 6 categories in a very detailed and logical and unemotional way. And I really appreciate that he shared his remarks with us prior to his making them. I also appreciate that Ms. Brandes did a fabulous job with the minutes, because not having participated, I felt that I had a very good sense of what happened. I felt that not only would the public have an opportunity to hear Mr. Rutenberg and perhaps hear the limits to what a municipality can and cannot do in the 6 categories and options before us, we as a council would also have had the opportunity to hear the various opinions of some of our residents. And I think we all acknowledge that this is a highly emotionally charged issue, and people feel very strongly, generally speaking, about this topic. So what I just want to clarify is that I have consistently been a supporter of prohibiting any of the 6 categories in our community, and I do not want to participate in any way. At this point, I would like to opt out. But I have not changed my position. My position was that I felt the meeting was very important, not that I supported the use in some, supported the one or any of the 6 categories. The other thing I'd like to just add is, because I know this is has come up several times this evening, and it seems to come up again and again. I too reached out to Dave Exton DuPont, or to Morse, because I wanted to hear from him whether that was an option. And I want to support what the mayor said a few minutes ago, that they unequivocally are not interested in that. So I think that's something that our council and our residents need to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Day.
Thank you. I also would like to thank the residents that did come to the conference meeting that we had on the marijuana, and I thought our attorney did a really fantastic job of explaining the law and the way it's laid out. One of the problems I have with the law, you have a regulatory commission that has possibly met twice, maybe 3 times. They passed the law, but they haven't put the regulations in place. And until they do that, I don't think we should be opting in, number one. Number two, the amount of income you're actually going to get from this, and I'll give you an example of Bayonne, who estimated they would be picking up maybe $60,000 in their 2% tax. Is that worth it or isn't it? I haven't even counted. And I think if you read the paper or anything, New York has opted into doing this, and that's took the cut out of the state of about 12% of what they figured they were going to make on it. Personally, I belong to the drug coalition in town. We've gotten a lot of reports out of Colorado and whatnot, and my personal opinion is that you're going to pull money in on one side and you're going to spend it on the other side with hospitalizations and things of that nature. I do come from a little law enforcement background, over 38 years, and I've seen a lot of things that have happened. Two of the women on the coalition, one has lost a son, not necessarily the marijuana, but it was a start. And the other woman, she has a daughter in rehab. And it makes it very difficult for those people. My personal opinion is that we take a wait-and-see attitude. If we opt in now, we can't limit any of the people that are licensed at that time. If we wait and we decide that it's a healthy thing, then we can make a different decision. So my personal opinion is to opt out.
Okay, thank you. Council President DeWine.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to wrap through everyone's comments. The emails that we've received over the past several months, the comments we heard tonight, and when we had the public town hall on April 29th. I thank everyone for their comments. You know, and it's been a struggle, honestly, thinking about this, because I think at some point, I don't want to say people's mindsets have to change, but regardless of how we individually feel about cannabis, how we grew up learning about cannabis, things like that, it is the law, it is legal. The problems that people, I think, are worried about associated with cannabis, whether we have a kind of business in our town or not, we're probably going to have to deal with those from the law enforcement side, from the public health side, the same way that we deal with a lot of other things. So I think, you know, the idea that this particular use is something we necessarily, you know, need to keep treating and thinking about as an illicit use. I think ultimately that probably should change. It doesn't change overnight, I recognize that. But at the same time, I think as to recognize, to kind of think about other people's comments. And Bill's right, the Cannabis Commission has met a total of 3 times. So to Mr. Chazot's point of being first to market, but then if we do it right. Well, we don't know that we're going to do it right, because we don't know how these businesses are going to be regulated at this point. We had 6 months from the inception of this law to make a decision. Cannabis Commission doesn't even know what they do, and we're already halfway through that clock. So one way or the other, a decision has to be made. And we had a term in the military called "he who hesitates is usually most correct," and that's when you rush into a decision, and regardless of what your intentions are, without knowing the full picture, you can cause more problems than avoid. So I think taking that step back, opting out, meeting the requirements of this law within the 6 months, and at least seeing how things do get regulated, how this industry proceeds, see what goes on, I think is the more prudent way to go. I do think it is the proper way to go at this point. I mean, it would be nice to know everything already in the sun, but there's too many unknowns to really make a proper decision on this point and support any kind of cannabis business. Because I'll tell you right now, the retail component from downtown, it's almost undoable downtown, because the state, in their infinite wisdom, actually banned the use of pilots for cannabis businesses, so that if you own a piece of property, you can't get a pilot if you have a cannabis business, a cannabis retail store, okay? We've spent the last 12 plus years pushing redevelopment in our downtown through the use of payment in lieu of taxes, okay? It's the same thing that Jersey City's doing, it's the same thing that Morristown's doing. They're realizing redevelopment, and now we are too. We did Lakeside Commons at 52 units. We're doing 281 and 261 through Capadeglia and Meridian. 206 units that, year one, that payment in lieu of taxes is going to realize us $335,000, okay? At 2% local tax for a cannabis retail store, okay, $1 million gets us $20,000, okay? So think about the amount of cannabis retail that you would have to do to trade off the ability to get a pilot in the downtown. So almost certainly a retail store cannot locate in downtown, because that's how we're refreshing our downtown. We're utilizing pilots as a strategy, and I just don't see us throwing that away for that purpose. So, and I would be more open to the cultivation, to the manufacturing, to those things, because ultimately at the end of the day, they are manufacturing uses, okay? Whatever you feel about, again, the industry, everything like that, they are legitimate businesses, they are for that purpose. So it bothers me a little bit that there's no place to put it, because DuPont Chemours is apparently no interest. So, you know, they're still going through remediation, and it kind of goes back to saying we should take a step back. We should be a little bit more prudent in our approach, continue to have those conversations, see if those attitudes change over there, those kind of things. And I think at the end of the day, because of all these factors, to weigh in on whether we permit one of these 6 classes of businesses or opting out for now for all of these 6 classes of businesses, I really do think that the most prudent option is to do a full opt-out and just continue to monitor the situation.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I want to thank the council. You know, this was not an easy decision by anybody up here. So, they did want to hear from the residents, and I can say that's more than most towns. Enough that I have News 12 calling me on it, I have Record coming to me. You're one of the few towns that are taking the time to listen to what the residents have to say. So, for some people that are saying there was a predetermined idea of what was going to be done here, that is untrue. I agree with what a lot of people said here. I personally, and I don't get to vote, unfortunately I don't vote on this, but my personal preference is I do not want to see retail in Pompton Lakes, but I would not hesitate to think about a manufacturing or even a grow area that's closed to the public, that does their business, does what they have to do, pays taxes, and moves forward. I am not against the legalization of marijuana, which passed. Like I said, if somebody wants to do that, there are avenues to receive and go get marijuana in this town. Nobody in this town is saying we don't want it here. I also agree with what a lot of people said up here. The revenue that we would get off a small retail establishment is really not a lot of money. You know, if we got DuPont to buy into a full-grown out, we could make a little bit of tax dollar there, yes, and I would entertain that. But at this moment, a retail, mom-and-pop retail that would fit in our downtown wouldn't generate anything in tax revenue for us. And also, I have to keep in mind, there is a federal regulation, I think it's 1,500 or 1,000, I'm not sure of the distance, that you have to be away from a school. Most of our downtown, including Hamburg Turnpike, is near a school, so it just wouldn't fit in our community at this point. The last thing I'll say is, as most of you are probably aware, a lot of residents have reached out to me on this, either by talking to me, by calling me, by texting, by emailing. And I'm gonna be honest, I see the breakdown is about 60-40, 60 against, 44. So it was close. There's no argument it wasn't close, but the majority of the residents that spoke to me said, at this time, there's no reason to bring that jeopardy to our town. Let's see what happens. Let's see what other towns are doing. And I will also say that's what most other towns are deciding too. It's not just us. The other towns just did it in closed-door meetings and did it. We didn't. So I thank everyone for doing. What we're going to do now is pass this off to you. We'll put together how we're going to put this on paper, and then we'll vote on that at some point. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any other final comments anybody wants to make? No. Okay, thank you. Okay. Approval of minutes. Motion to approve the following minutes: regular meeting minutes of April 28th, special open meeting minutes of April 29th. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Brennan. Councilwoman Riker. All in favor?
Aye.
Against. Consent agenda, Liz, whenever you're ready. Anybody need anything removed?
I do.
Which one?
I would like the first one removed.
Okay.
Whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, and whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pompton Lakes does desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 21-157 through 21-164, and we're going to remove 21-156.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Motion, Riker.
Councilman Begg, Councilwoman Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Resolution 21-156.
Authorizing a contract for the acquisition of goods or services pursuant to state statute with NW Financial Group, LLC.
What's the question, Terry?
I know it's in your report, but I'd like to hear more about it.
Yeah, no problem. NW Financial Services Group is an organization that actually right now is overseeing the County of Passaig's CARES Act program. They are the individual organization that reviews all of our applications for funding and makes sure that our applications meet the criteria of the CARES Act before we receive reimbursement. Sue Scavone, as you know, was hired as our grants coordinator to face the CARES program with the borough and with the county. As we go now into the American Recovery Plan, that's really not really in Sue's bailiwick, and I've been talking to representatives, NW Financial, who are more suited to move forward into this next phase of federal funding relative to the American Recovery Act. So that being said, any and all contractual obligations that are had here will be paid for through the federal funds that are provided to us, which will be about $2 million in two installments, one this year and one next year, with the money being spent and accounted for by 2026. So that's why the recommendation was made to bring these people on, because they have a very good understanding of dealing with the federal government. And again, this is not the CARES Act where a lot of money was spent on us buying PPE, putting the hands-free system in Borough Hall, all other kind of things, to the tune of over $800,000. It's going to be more of a social service aspect to this act. And they're very suited for that. They did a number of social service programs for the County of Passaic. So it made sense to me that we're getting a lot of money that's going to be in terms of our ability to actually address it and provide it to the residents with organizations, what have you. It needed an organization that would be able to do this and do it properly, so we don't run afoul of the federal government down in 2026.
Okay, thank you. The reason I asked you to pull it, quite frankly, is I wanted to hear your assurances that if we were paying them for consulting services, we would no longer be paying Sue Scavone as well. That's really what I'm looking for in terms of it, because just the very initial information we received, I wanted a better understanding to know that we're not paying for duplication of services.
Right, and I think actually Sue was the one who reached out to us and said, this is not something I can really handle. So she kind of backed up. Right. Okay, are you good then, Terry?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Are you okay, or you want to have any other questions?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
All right, can I have a motion on ordinance resolution 21-156?
Motion, Riker.
Motion, Councilwoman Riker, second, Councilman Begg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Wow, no introductions of anything. That's nice. Under my report, motion to accept the resignation. Wow, that's a big word for Al Evangelista. As Class C member, and to appoint Al Evangelista as a Class B member of the Historical Preservation Commission to fill in an unexpired term. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Venon, Councilwoman Palladori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay. Congratulations on your new appointment. So under my report quickly, I have taken a lot of meetings in the last 2 weeks on redevelopment. As Council President Devine mentioned, we are becoming one of those towns that developers are interested in, and it's a nice thing to see. We have people now fighting over spaces of property that we have. We have limited what we have. We can't change what we have. And when we first started this, and Councilwoman Riker will attest to this, nobody was knocking on our door 10 years ago to come and build in town, and we were begging people to come build in our town. It's completely flipped around now, and I'm telling people, no, I'm sorry, I can't accept anything right now, which is a great thing. That means they have faith in Pompton Lakes, and that we can do something nice here. And remember, the two reasons we're doing this: it's a huge tax surplus for us that we can kind of stabilize our taxes, huge numbers. Council President DeWine mentioned the $350,000 in the first year. The last year of that 30-year pilot is $1 million. That's $1 million extra we get a year on a property that was maybe paying $50,000, $40,000 in taxes. That $1 million, by the way, stays with the borough. It doesn't get split up with the county. It doesn't go anywhere else. They get 5% of that. So that's one of the huge things. The other thing that we have to keep in mind, we're trying to revitalize our downtown. Not just us, many downtowns are having a hard sell of keeping in place what they have. Everybody's shopping at box stores, and our big fight here in town is to shop locally. This will bring that vitalization back into town, and people would rather just walk across the street to get something to eat or go to a hardware store than drive up to 23 to Home Depot. So, nothing against Home Depot, but we want to keep those people in the town. So for me, that's one of the reasons I got involved with politics early on. This is a positive in my eyes. Look, this changes, and I understand that. And I hear from residents that don't like to see the change. I get that. We're not changing the outlook of our town tremendously. These are all buildings that are kind of in the back, but we're behind the 8 ball on this, and a lot of towns have already taken advantage of this, and we're just trying to catch up. So I thank all the people that are involved, and there's too many to mention to make this move forward. I got to mention the Memorial Day Parade. We will be having our Memorial Day Parade on Sunday, May 30th. The ceremony starts at 11:30 at the Memorial, and then we'll start a march from Colfax Avenue through downtown. The only difference this year is normally we go back to the VFW for some refreshments. Because of COVID, we will not be going back to the VFW for refreshments. Unfortunately, it's just not something we can do right now. I've been fighting very hard to have the Memorial Day Parade. Let me just tell you, from the governor's office down, they've been telling me I can't do it. And then finally, they kind of loosened up in the last couple of weeks, which is good to see. Moving on from that, we will be having our Pompton Day, which is another huge thing to have back. We lost it last year. We're going to bring it back this year, even better. So any vendors that are out there watching and want to be involved in Pompton Day, we're moving forward. Follow the same channels you did before. Any new vendors can contact Borough Hall to get some information on how to become a vendor there. Our summer camp program will be running, and I'm sure some of the other council people will talk about that. We'll bring back our concert series downtown starting in June, and I think the first band up, believe it or not, is 3M Band, which is a local band here, and a lot of people are familiar with it. They do a great job. And now that the numbers have been relaxed a little bit, we can have more people on the lawn. So we're slowly getting back to opening up. It's been a long, hard struggle for everyone, from residents to businesses to restaurants to us up here. It's been taxing on all of us up here. We've spent a lot of time, especially myself, in dealing with this, and I'm glad we're getting to the other side of this. We will have some type of recognition ceremony for all our dedicated employees, police, fire, first aid, CERT, all the healthcare workers that really went out of their way. And then when you think back to what those people, I went and I was fortunate enough to give some awards out at the ambulance squad for their dedication. We got to think back a year ago what those people were doing, going into people's homes, not knowing what was happening, not knowing if they were going to catch something that could kill them, and they were still going in and doing what they had to do, and that goes for all our people, so we will be celebrating them in some way. And that is my report. Council President Devine.
Thank you, Mayor. This past Saturday, I attended the first of the Spring Trails Maintenance event. I was running a little bit behind because I had finished coaching soccer, but I had the privilege of actually running over to the Yellow Trail, where I met Gene Hoffman from Columbia Bank, and he had brought a couple volunteers from the Columbia Bank. So I just wanted to recognize a business in our town that is participating and working to make our town better. Obviously, all the other volunteers that usually attend the trail maintenance. So overall, from what I saw, the trails look good. I mean, there was garbage like there normally is, but they seem to be well used and continue to be in good shape. I wanted to extend my condolences to Millie Torsiello's husband, Richie, who recently passed away. I gave everyone on the council dais something called the ABCs of ADUs, and I've spoken about this before. We actually have, and I've had some preliminary conversations with Councilwoman Polidori as the ordinance chair and with Dave Rutenberg, but we actually have ADUs as a permitted conditional use in the borough. There's a couple conditions that I think...
Why don't you say what it is?
Oh, I'm sorry. So, for those that don't know, an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. It's basically a small apartment attached to a house. In many other municipalities, it might be as part of a garage, things like that. One of the work that I've been doing over the past year and a half or so is with New Jersey Future and the Taub Foundation on aging-friendly land use. And what we found out through the course of this study was, not surprisingly, living in New Jersey, residents are overburdened on their housing. Basically, a certain percentage of their income, too high of a percentage basically goes towards the housing costs. And the number goes up dramatically in terms of the percentage overburdened as they grow older, over 55 and then over 65. Accessory dwelling units, ADUs, are one way for a resident to potentially capture value in their house. They can rent it out, they can have an ADU, they can move into that ADU, effectively downsizing, while we continue to remain in the community. So I just wanted to pass this information on to the other council people, just an idea, just to learn a little bit about it. In a couple weeks at the American Planning Association New Jersey Conference, I'll actually be speaking with a number of other people on our aging-friendly land use assessment. So this is something I believe in. Again, it is already permitted with some conditions in our borough. So it's just a matter, I think, of thinking about and discussing, refining that existing ordinance. And then finally, I just wanted to Mayor Sarah's point, this week is National Police Week, so I just wanted to recognize our police officers. Last year, actually, about this time, I worked for the Borough of Glen Ridge, and we lost a police officer to COVID, and it was quite a shock, and I think it was mentioned by the Governor Murphy, and it was broadcast in a number of news media, things like that. I mean, it was quite the ceremony when he was laid to rest. And so yesterday, the borough actually dedicated a street that runs really right next to the police station, right across the street from where he used to live, yesterday, as Officer Roberts' Way. And people talked about him, we had a proclamation and things like that. And what they said about Officer Roberts, I couldn't help but think about all the great things that our police officers have done, what they mean to our community. So, in the spirit of National Police Week, I just wanted to acknowledge the wonderful work our police officers do in our community. And that concludes my report.
Well, it's funny, I could follow up with a story today. I was driving past Lakeside Avenue, and I saw a bunch of police cars there. And I go, oh, something horrible is happening. And I rolled down the window, I said, what's going on? They said, Mayor, we're chasing a tiny chihuahua we see running around here with no license. And they finally wrangled it down, and I saw one of the officers later walking it down on Lakeside Avenue, taking him for a walk, hoping the dog was going to walk him back to his house because they had no tag on him. So we had 3 officers chasing down a tiny chihuahua on Police Week, so it's nice to see. Councilwoman Riker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly, my comments this evening primarily focus on safety. As the weather gets better, and everyone is out and about, for years, you have heard me talk from the dais and now in absentia about bicycle use and the use of helmets. I beg people to begin to more religiously wear their bike helmets. The bike helmets are not just for the kids. They're for everyone. They're for everyone's safety. And I would encourage the adults to sort of do as I do, show by example, and wear the helmets. I know I periodically, when I'm out walking, if I see a kid wearing a helmet, I stop them and say, way to go. And I was engaged with a child a couple of days ago, and I said, have you gotten an ice cream coupon? And he sort of looked at me, and I said, well, you keep wearing that helmet and you'll be on the lookout for it. You should get one. So I want to thank Liz Francis again, because she has done over the last few years, reached out to both Wendy's an ice cream station, and they're giving our police officers a whole new batch of coupons to try to say, way to go, nice job, and when they see a student wearing a helmet, they give them the coupon. It's the carrot and the stick philosophy. The other thing is, Ms. Brandis indicated that she will reach out to the new ice cream parlor in town as well and see if they would like to participate and join in the encouraging the students, especially those middle schoolers. You see so many, when you walk past Lakeside, you see so many bikes on that bike rack, and I beg people to please wear their helmets. My other comments regard not bike safety, but boat safety. As you know, people beginning to launch their boats. We have a situation here in Wayne where the boat launch is not limited just to residents. We have fishermen, we have kayakers, we occasionally have canoe, but our prime problem tends to be our jet skiers. And the jet skiers seem not to abide at all by any of the speed limits. And I'm just reminding folks that when you have a jet ski and then you have kayakers and small fishermen in small boats, it's really quite hazardous. The police are on alert. They are watching for the jet skiers. And if you noticed in our capital budget this year, the police are in the process of ordering a patrol boat to really cut down on some of this unsafe boating that has increased, especially in the last couple of, especially since COVID, because people are looking for alternate ways to get outside and have some fun. So please, I encourage bike safety and boat safety. And, Mayor, that's my report.
Thank you. I can add to that and just tell you that we had 17 officers take a boat safety class in preparation to us getting a boat, and we're working on a dock for them also. So in the next 6 months or so, you will see a patrol boat every once in a while on the lake doing what you're bringing them up now. But, you know, to do that, they had to be trained, and so we did send 17 officers to get trained, so that's good news. Councilman Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor. As you may or may not know, I grew up in Ridgewood, and the streets were tree-lined, and it's a very soothing, nice way to look at a community. What I'm seeing a lot of, and this resident brought it up tonight, and I am in agreement with Councilwoman Kent, that there should be, and not necessarily on private property, but in general, some sort of ordinance that if it's in the borough right-of-way and a tree is removed or severely cut down or some other manner, that we don't leave it bare, that we do replace it, and we do have control over that section of space. And ideally, they're replaced not in where the power lines are, to avoid any future issues, or if they are replaced, they're replaced with trees that don't grow as tall. But I do feel the importance of replacing trees when they're cut down in the areas that we have control over. That is my report.
Okay, which we normally do, but remember, we take the shade tree will make those determinations. We as a council don't usually make those determinations. So if the shade, and I would say 9 out of 10 times when we remove a tree, we do replace the tree with a different species of tree. I can't think on a hand of any trees we've taken down and not replaced in our right of way. I totally disagree on private property going after any resident. You know, if someone wants to put a pool in or put a deck in or put an addition, we're going to tell them no because they have an old tree on their property. That's not asking to work with our residents. And I think residents would be very upset with that kind of comment. But I think, Kevin, maybe you can add more to this. We usually replace trees as we take them out. Is that correct? We usually replace trees as we take them out.
That's part of the program.
Okay, good. Thank you. Councilman Begg.
Thank you. I received the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad report for the month of April from Chief Ken Razi. There were 59 calls for service for the month of April. There were 29 calls in Pompton Lakes, 19 calls in Riverdale, and 8 duty calls in Waukegan. There were 32 medical emergency calls, 18 trauma calls, no CPR calls, 6 motor vehicle accident calls, and 1 fire call. I attended the Pompton Lakes Board of Education meeting on May 4th, 2021. The board discussed and passed the budget for 2021. The fiscal goals of the district is as follows. Goal 1, meeting the needs of our students. Goal 2, maintaining our facilities. Goal 3, manage expenses. And Goal 4, generate additional sources of revenue. The board's budget is a 1% increase, which is about a $101 increase on the average home. The total 2021-22 budget is $25,863,333. Superintendent Paul Amoroso reports the following. Lennox School, the 5th grade marble maze project returned, challenging students to design a themed maze that applies to principles of science and engineering to successfully allow a marble to run through the entire maze. In honor of Arbor Day, Councilwoman Polidori spoke with the 3rd grade class about Arbor Day, and each student received a sapling for their own purposes. Lincoln School unveiled its annual art show on April 28th. The show was done virtually. Lakeside School, in celebration of Youth Art Month, the school held a PEPS diorama contest. The event, sponsored by the Pompton Lakes Women's Club, challenging students to develop themed displays using PEP Peps Marshmallows. Pompton Lakes High School, Junior Riley Beste was selected to participate in the prestigious Governor's School of Engineering and Technology hosted by Rutgers University School of Engineering. On April 30th, the Interact Club and the class of 2021 organized the Walk for Hope in support of mental health awareness and raised approximately $1,600. Senior Daniel Malinsky was selected to receive the Morris County Administrators of Special Education Scholarship Award. I also attended the Pompton Lakes Board of Education meeting on May 11th, 2021. At the meeting, they honored the teachers of the year in each school for both 2019-20 and 2019-21. The teachers of the year for 2019-2020 are Erwin Velassi, Lennox School, Kate Vivino, Lincoln School, Melissa Hackett, Lakeside School, and John Toronto, Pompton Lakes High School. And the teachers for the 2020-21 school year are Melissa Huha, Lennox School, Marianne Russo, Lincoln School, Michelle Carusa, Lakeside School, and Karen Hennessy, Pompton Lakes High School. The board accepted the resignation of Colleen Moyle, Director of Athletics, PE, Health, and Nursing, for the purpose of retirement effective September 1st, 2021. I received the Pompton Lakes Police Department report for the month of April 2021 from Chief Derek Clark. There were 2,259 calls for service for the month of April. There were 882 motor vehicle stops, 492 summonses issued, 2 DWI arrests, 15 motor vehicle accidents investigated, 16 alarm conditions burglary, 4 alarm conditions fire, 3 burglaries, 1 theft, 1 sexual assault, no aggravated assaults, 9 domestic violence investigations. The Detective Bureau investigated 14 complaints, conducted 7 background checks for firearm permits, and completed 10 name checks for background info for police departments and the military. And that's my report.
Thank you. I happen to be a judge for the last couple of years for that high school marble challenge, and it's amazing what they do here. It's just amazing. I don't even know how they think those things up. And you talk about Pompton pride. You know, Colleen Moyle has been involved in town for so many years and so many things, and she's going to be sorely missed, I'm sure, at the school. She's been involved a very, very long time. Before we get to the next report, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, we had an unfortunate death, and I'm sure a lot of people are aware of a 10-year-old child in town the last 2 weeks ago. It was very unfortunate. It involved a balloon, and I'm not sure really what happened. It's just so disheartening to have a single mother lose her only child at 10 years old. I know I've reached out, and all the residents have been great trying to help. We are going to do something for the child, probably down. He was a soccer player, so we'll probably be doing something at the soccer field. When I was soccer president, I had put away a little memorial for unfortunate children that had passed away, and he'll probably be memorized there. And I know some of the residents are putting together a GoFundMe page that is run by the PTA, and the school. I spoke with the superintendent. That is what they're recommending to anybody who would like to help out this mother, who was an aide at the school. To help is go to the GoFundMe page, because it was put together by the PTA. Just a sad story and a horrible thing.
Certainly is. I can tell you Rotary is making the donations.
Yeah, I don't want to announce his name because I don't know if the family has announced it yet, but, I have a daughter that teaches in that grade, and he said it was a very nice boy, well-liked and unfortunate. Councilwoman Kent, you have 2 motions there.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A motion to approve the request of Jeff Horn and surrounding neighbors to host a block party at 135 Cedar Avenue on his side of street on July 31st of 2021 from noon until dusk. Police, fire, first aid to be notified.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Venon, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Okay. And motion to waive a $10 raffle fee for the Pompton Lakes Elks, the raffle license number 1282, to benefit Pompton Lakes Recreation Commission.
I say no to that. Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion, Riker.
Councilman Begg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. So, I did attend the Board of Health meeting, on Monday evening, and, we had a very good update about COVID and how well Pompton Lakes has done. We're one of the highest vaccinated towns in Passaic County, and, they have enough vaccines to go around now, so, if you want a vaccine, you can get it. Their next public meeting will be in September. They meet every other couple months. I also attended the Board of Education meeting, but Councilman Begg did a great job on that, so I won't go any further. I didn't feel well last night, but I did attend a Zoom meeting with the Lake Restoration Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Flood Board. And they're going to be thrilled to find out that you're getting a patrol boat to patrol the lake, because one of the concerns that started that whole committee was speed boating and then the excessive use of causing wakes in the lake and dangerous conditions in the lake from trees and so on and so forth. So they'll be very happy to hear that there's going to be patrolling of boats and wave runners and those things in the lake, because we're trying to keep it from more of a more passive kind of, slow boats, fishing, low maintenance motors. I think they're trying to do that, and they'll be very happy to hear that. The river cleanup. Well, we had everything absolutely organized, perfect, except the rain just did not cooperate. And I want to thank Liz Bransmith, our clerk, and our OEM coordinator, Al Evangelista, for putting out a reverse 911 and letting people know that we are going to have a rain date of this Sunday at 10 o'clock down at Hirschfield Park, and we're going to coordinate that along with the trail maintenance folks, because they also have a schedule. Is that correct? Trail maintenance, yeah. They're also having a trail maintenance, so if we can again try to organize that. We have amazing, such generosity from Wendy's. Wendy's is going to be donating the cheeseburgers and the ice cream stations. We have coupons for them, for people for coming out and donating 2 hours at a time to clean up the rivers and the parks and the open spaces in town. So if you have a couple hours in the morning on Sunday, please come out and help us keep our town clean. We appreciate it. So I can't change weather, but we're going to do our best to get that program in and done. And I also want to thank the bid for the beautiful shirts that they did pay for, and we support them 100%. I plan on meeting with my understanding that the US EPA representatives are going to be coming in for DuPont. They'll be coming
Tomorrow,
back
they
in?
will be here, yes. Perry will be here tomorrow.
Pat just sent out an email, I guess the representative's gonna be here in a family emergency, so not be too...
Oh, I didn't see the, can you send an email?
Yeah, she sent an email.
Okay, so I knew they weren't, Perry was coming as of yesterday, right? Perry was coming as of yesterday.
tomorrow, yeah.
Okay, but he's saying he got an email saying they're not coming now. Eric?
Yeah, she just sent an email saying...
Okay, I haven't seen it,
Yeah.
I didn't get it, okay.
Okay, so they won't be, but when they do
Yeah,
come back,
if you want me to, I can read it out.
when they do come back, I've asked to meet with them and just to have an update on the Camorra's cleanup and the DuPont property. I think that's important that I stay on top of that, and we stay on top of that. It's a lot.
Are you meeting as a liaison or just individually?
Just as an individual.
Okay, so as an individual.
I think that's important because our lake was cleaned up by Camorra's, and it's still, we haven't gotten that final approval and they can walk away. I think we have 5 years, so I think it's important we make sure everything's done.
Yeah, I think the work, though, on the lake they're done, because I questioned the trees, and there's no longer any more insurance on the trees right now. So they have the 5 years, but they don't have to replace anything. So that's part of the problem, but okay.
But yeah, but I do, you know, if we just sit down with them, make sure we...
Yeah, you can meet on Thursday with them, sure, yeah.
Sure, I mean, they're coming, so
Yeah, sure.
we have that opportunity. And I do want to comment on one of the residents, Mr. Brummel, who came in and talked about the trees. He did reach out to me on an email, as he said, and on that sycamore tree, and I think the tree over in Colfax Avenue, quite honestly, anybody who knows me knows I am an official tree hugger, and I've been for pretty much all my life. And the tree legacy ordinance that Councilman Venon mentioned is really for public right-of-ways and areas. It is very hard, although I would like to have seen it, it's very hard to take people and not allow them to remove trees from their private property. It's very difficult to do. There's 1 or 2 places that do it, but not too often. There's none that I know of around here. It's very hard, because they're going to fight you, and they'll probably lose. They'll probably lose. But I do support a legacy ordinance and with the shade tree. And to my knowledge, Mayor, I don't believe we have any requirement that residents have to replace a tree. There's no requirement.
On their own property?
Anyway.
No, well,
If
there's a
they
difference.
take, if they take, on anything, if we take down a tree,
If we or the residents?
if we take down a tree, the borough,
The borough?
there's no requirement to put another tree.
No, but we're talking about our property.
Yes, there's no requirement.
Right, there's no requirement, but the
Right.
shade tree recommends yes or no to that.
Yeah, they can recommend, but there's nothing requiring that they replace
No,
that tree.
but that's why we have shade tree. That's their job, to look at that.
Right.
They have 2 plantings a year in the spring and the fall where they plant trees all over town.
We be separate from what they're bringing. What they're mentioning is when a tree comes down, they want to put a tree up. It doesn't necessarily mean it might be a bad area to put a tree up there. So the shade tree will say, no, I think we should put a tree somewhere else. This is a bad area. So it's not necessarily a tree's always going in the spot where a tree was removed. And I'll use the place, Hirschfield Park. We're not trying to put big trees back in there because kids are in there, and that's what part of the problem is. So they might say, why don't we put it on this side of the park where it's away from the swings? So, that's the way it works. But it's always a tree replacement. It's not an ordinance. I wouldn't support an ordinance because it's why we have Shade Tree Commission. It's their job to do that.
Well, that's what he was talking about. He was talking about putting an ordinance.
No, his question, because he's called me numerous times, he wants ordinances on private property.
Yeah, I don't see that happening because we'll lose in court. If you try to do that, you'd lose in court. However, but for public properties, when you take trees down, there are different ordinances that you can use. In different towns, Ridgewood is one. They have a very strong tree. But, I would like to see, trees that are 100 years old. If they're healthy, they should stay. That'd be nice. And so that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. The other group that's an unsung hero here with the COVID is the health department. Back a year ago, I was on the phone with the health department daily. Could be in the middle of the night, could be during the day, and they were very, very cooperative and very, very helpful. So again, when we honor the people, they will be part of that group. I know our OEM coordinator reached out yesterday about a program that's being offered at the college campus, where on Tuesdays between 9 and 2, you can go down to Wanacue campus right there in Wanacue and get either a vaccination of a Johnson & Johnson or a COVID test. So you don't have to have an appointment. If you want to show up on a Tuesday for either one of those two things, you can. I know I spoke with our nurse today. We're really to the point now, and I got to thank the residents. Like I think Councilwoman Kent mentioned, we're at 60%. We're one of the higher communities in Passaic County with vaccination, which is great to see. We're at the point now where if someone needs a vaccination, we can just call the health department, they can go get it. They probably in the next month or next week will be stopping the Wednesday sites, and just if you need an injection, we'll get you one. So, and moving forward, these are all good things, and this is what's bringing us back. So, the health department did a great job. Councilwoman Palladori.
Thank you, Mayor. So my condolences, I would like to also offer them to the family with the sad and unfortunate loss of their child. I will not share the name because you did not, but I will say that I had a few residents reach out and ask for some avenues that they could pursue to
help this family. And in less than 48 hours, there was a very large quantity of masks produced with his stalker number and his name on them. And a mass distribution of emails went out today to all of the parents of school children, also on behalf of the PTA. They are selling masks for $5 each. I have shared this flyer on social media, as have numerous other residents. So it is another way that you can support the family. You can buy a mask for $5, and all of the proceeds go back to the family. So if you have children in school, you would have received that email today, and the PTA is also collecting the funds for that. So this is a very tragic and unfortunate loss and a devastating situation, and I appreciate the fact that we had so many members in our community reach out in regards to what they could do to help support during this time. On another note, I, as Councilman Biggs said, did attend both Lincoln and Lenox School with a member of the Shade Tree and a member of Women's Club to hand out trees in honor of Arbor Day, which lands on a Friday every year, but the school actually welcomed us in on the Friday this year, so we were able to do the program on Friday, which was nice. This is a program that is sponsored by the NJ Forestry Department. They supply schools that would like to participate with saplings for each of the third graders. It's for third graders only. And I started this when my son was in third grade. And minus last year because of COVID, we've been able to do it every year since. And Principal Shadyac was always very excited about this because there is a tree on the property that they were given from this program years and years and years ago in honor of a student that had passed, and the tree is flourishing, and he always took great pride in welcoming us for this presentation and showing this tree to us. So it was very nice to have Principal Renee welcome us back with the same enthusiasm this year. He had all of the students prepared. The day actually turned out to be lovely. It was supposed to rain, but it was nice out, so we were able to gather all of the students outside at both schools. And we started with the history of the Arbor Day, and then the Shade Tree talked about how they can plant and care for their trees. And then we engaged all of the children in an activity where they shared with us their things about trees that they love the most. And then in their most creative ways, they named each of their trees as they picked them up. So there was some pretty great names that were given for the trees. And the thing that made it extra special this year was this was the actual first in-person presentation that the students have had since the beginning of COVID. So they were extra excited to be able to get outside and have some visitors come see them at school and share some great information and some trees. I had a bunch of pictures of kids that went home that night and planted them, so it made me very happy to do that, and I look forward to continuing it in the years to come. And I want to also encourage residents to continue to participate in the Dine and Donates as you see them being advertised on social media. They are excellent ways to put your dollars back into our small businesses that then turn around and put some of those dollars back into our community organizations. And that is my report.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always a great program with the kids in third grade. Dave, before you stay, I just want to thank you for all the information you've been able to give us on this. You will become an expert at some point and maybe go to Capitol Hill and talk about it some more. Any report?
No, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Minister's report. Kevin?
Just a couple things, Mayor. We received a letter from the DOT for a 2021 municipal aid application. We're looking at a couple of roads, the continuation of Lincoln Ave, which we'll be doing this year, start from where we ended off, or potentially Lakeside Ave, since we're doing a lot of work down by the lake. There's other things we want to do in that area. We were looking at the possibility of doing some areas of Lakeside Ave, and that'll be vetted out based upon the numbers. You have to have traffic counts and things like that, so we'll see what road actually is a better way to go. We also received a letter from the Middlesex Joint Insurance Fund, the Borough of Pompton Lakes was in the Middlesex Fund from 2001 to 2018. Based upon actuarial reviews and going through the fund itself finds itself in a $25 million deficit. That being said, the Borough of Pompton Lakes is responsible for $690,000 of its share of the deficit. So starting in 2022, the borough will be paying $69,000 a year for the next 10 years to refund its deficit to the fund. Now, understand, $600,000 seems like a lot of money. If you're in the city of New Brunswick, your number is $4 million. So Again, one of the things in these funds are all, it's you either lose and win based upon actuarial numbers and claims. I'm going to be going to the May 26th meeting to find out exactly what went wrong. But I can tell you, we were in the North Jersey Fund and Lane. Back in the day, there was a deficit, and Pompton Lakes was part of that deficit also. So it's just one of those unfortunate things when you have these funds that, as they start chewing things up, then the numbers don't come out as well as you would hope. So I'll report further back on that, but it's not uncommon, unfortunately. We received from Comores the first quarter program report. I think it's always good to read that to really kind of give you an idea of what they're doing on the site, how they're interacting with DEP and EPA. So it's a very good update relative to the Comores operations in Pompton Lakes in total. For our engineering is finishing the markups on Lincoln Avenue. Once they are done, it'll be sent to DOT, since it's a DOT project. Once DOT approves the markups, we'll then begin the final plans and specs and advertising. We're hoping to do that sometime in June. The Willow Field project is now down in DEP. All of our engineering is done. We already received our soils approval from the Soil Conservation Organization. Ferraro believes we'll probably get DEP approval sometime in the fall, since right now a lot of DEP people are working remotely, and then they'll get to the office and review a lot of these plans on a regular basis. And then from there, because of the way the project is set up, we believe we could probably start this and bid it out relatively quickly, maybe even do some winter work on the fields, and maybe get through the seasons without really impacting most of a baseball and/or soccer. So we'll see where that goes, but it looks like Willow Field will definitely be a 2022 project. Colfax Avenue, all of the curb work and the handicap returns are in. They are going to take those 2 trees down that were part of the process. And as I mentioned, when we do these projects, Montclair Ave, Colfax Ave, Lincoln Ave, shade tree is part of the process because they want to use our dollars if possible. If that trees have to come down or pruned up, we put under a capital improvement fund, it doesn't hit their current dollars. So it benefits them too. So once that's done, they'll start milling and look to pave. So Colfax Ave, after a very rocky start last year, is moving along fairly well now. Borough Hall will be open again to the public on June the 1st. As you know, last year when COVID hit, we were one of the last towns to close up our doors to the public to actually come into the main offices, and we were the first towns to open up. I can still tell you that a lot of towns are not having in-person meetings. A lot of towns are not allowing public back into their facilities even at this point in time. So we're going to be opening up again to the public on June the 1st. The Pond Hole project, as you know, we awarded that bid 2 weeks ago. Jersey Central did its utility work, Verizon is doing its utility work, and normally Jersey Central moves poles, it's a big hit. I got a $6,000 bill, I was thinking, wow, we're doing pretty well. Well, I got the Verizon bill today, $55,000. So we move all Verizon infrastructure in the Pond Hole, there's a lot of it there. I'm waiting for cable company to tell me what their next shot in the hopper is going to be. But that being said, we are still on the march to have a June 1st movement of all utilities. One of the things I give Ferraro and Mark Dennis credit for is to think out of the box and realize most times that is relegated to the contract. If we had the contractor start and get this done, we'd be having utilities moved in July or August. By doing what we did, working all winter, Mark and I, now they're almost all done by June 1st. Contractors should start right after that. So we've kind of eliminated a lot of downtime in that process. So Pond Hole's going good. We're working with Meridian now on a couple of things relative to their construction and our paving project. We're dealing with Pompton 5 relative to their construction and our paving project, and also Smith. So we have a number of awards in the water there, but I believe we can probably move through and circumvent all those areas as we go forward. The last thing I have is, as you mentioned 2 meetings ago, relative to the EPA at the rough cleaners. Since that time, they were nice enough to give us the information and contact for Mr. Ross' son in California, who then in turn reached out to me, gave me the contact for his attorney. After a number of conversations with his attorney, a very nice gentleman, East Coast wheat plant in California, it's been determined that they're going to allow us to do cleaning of the outside of the property. We're going to provide them with a letter saying they're in violation of property maintenance. give them an opportunity to respond to it. If not, we're going to do what we have to do to take the property and clean it, which is going to be painted and remove the sign and stuff like that. Nothing spectacular, but we'll definitely give the property a facelift. And then add that lien to the rest of the lien, because nobody's paying taxes anyway. But they're not going to object to us doing the work on the outside of the property. So I'm working out with a contractor to give me a price on what it would cost to do a down and dirty removal of the sign and just clean, scrape, and repaint the building, maybe make it look more like the rest of the downtown that the eyesore it is. So that's a good piece of news.
That's great news, and I forgot to mention in my report that we did have a meeting with the EPA and the DEP and the administrator and myself, and they were very hopeful, and the EPA did come back, and they said they would be back a week, and they did come back in a week, and they went in and said they will remove the barrels of contaminants that are in there from when the cleaners was left in there, and remove the machinery that was using it, and after that, then there'll be a discussion if we can maybe coax the EPA to remove the building itself. And if they can do that, we can make a little pocket park there coming into our new pond hole. So that's our goal and our hope at the end. But the fact that we can clean up the building right now from the outside, the bid will be very happy, all the businesses will be very happy, because it is a horrible eyesore right now in the middle of downtown.
I can tell you they were here to utilize our restrooms while they were working there, and talking to the guys, it's like going back to the future. It's like walking back to a time warp to 1980s dry cleaning processes. Everything is there as if somebody just left and said, we're done working, and they didn't touch a thing. It's all there as if just shut the door and walked away. Right. He says that's kind of eerie. It's kind of eerie.
Any questions to the administrator?
I had just one question. On the ARP money that we're going to get, and we brought on this Northwest Financial Group, how are we determining, what programs are we developing? How are this money is going to get spent? That's what
I'm going to try to find out.
Okay, so they're going to kind of...
these people will help us do.
Sure, okay.
Because the concern is, if you really read the guidance is no better. I read yesterday from the feds when it came out the first time.
Yeah, it's that.
So it's like, didn't help me.
Broaden it.
Because it doesn't say that you can't buy PP, you can't do things, but it also talks about a lot of, social service aspect of it. People, businesses who are residents who have, economic issues, tenants, landlords. So a lot there to that. So I'm trying to find out and deal with them as to what way to go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the game plan. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Right.
Okay, Deborah. Right.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Kevin, just on the Roth cleaners, is the EPA going to deal with the vapor intrusion issue? If there's an intrusion issue, only because there's a daycare directly next.
No, they've already tested it. They're testing that and wearing it, and there's a system there now. There's already a system there. It's been there 10 years.
Yeah.
It's just that nobody's been taking care of it. So the EPA is going to... The DEP isn't actually in charge of it, and the DEP has handed it off to the EPA, saying, we'd rather you take care of it. So the EPA will now address the contaminants, get the systems back up and running. They'll do a check of the nearby structures just to make sure everything around it is safe. And if we get the green light that everything's good, and they think that could happen easily, then the system will be running and we'll move forward.
They're not going to put us on a list or anything like that.
That could happen. That's not, that's what we're trying not to be put on a list.
Not to be putting on a list?
Correct.
I would ask.
But let's remember, at the end of the day, this is a DEP project.
Yeah.
EPA should not be involved in this, but they're kind of working jointly because we have a good communication with the EPA, and Pat was very helpful in setting up a meeting between all the parties involved. The DEP is basically saying, we don't have the manpower or the money to address this.
It's a brownfield now.
They won't say that, but they say they don't have the manpower or money to address it.
I just don't want to become a supervisor. I don't want to see that.
I can't, at the end of the day, we're hoping they're going to take it down. It's the best we can hope.
Okay.
Do we know when South Park is going to be ready with new equipment?
Talk to the DPW has to finalize the mulch under the new climbing equipment. That was supposed to be done yesterday, but manpower issues created a problem there, so we're going to try to get it done by the weekend. Relative to the autistic unit there, we're going to try to get that rotated around. It's not bolted in sections, so we have to jackhammer up footings and actually change that. There's a cost to doing that, so we have to figure out how we're going to handle that. But
was it installed incorrectly?
Excuse me?
I'm not familiar with what happened.
It's facing the street. It's facing the street and not facing. Somewhere along the miscommunication from our vendor and the contractor, we wanted to make sure it wasn't blocking us next to the bench. By doing that, they made that way, but also face toward the road, not face toward the other.
So the special needs chair that we put in, that new chair, really should be facing towards the playground where all the kids are. Instead, it's facing to the street where they're kind of looking at nothing. So we want to rotate that, but that's not an easy fix. And all the work that's being done with the mulch, they have to finish that. They started it, but they get dragged off or people don't call in, and they have to let it go and do something else. So hopefully we can get them there this weekend to finish it. And then that part of the park will be open. And actually the chair will be open too, until it gets turned.
At the very least, someone can go down and rehang all of the safety netting, because it's had the mulch dumped on it, it's just falling down everywhere. So.
And I talked to Dan yesterday. He was hoping to try to get it done yesterday and try to get the park open yesterday. And relative, so there's a light that actually is on the Morris Canal Greenway. I'm going to try to rotate that light and change the light so it's not, so it will actually will illuminate some of the park going forward. So we're waiting. I'm working with Jersey Central on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Administrator? Seeing none? Okay. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
Motion.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Second.
Council President Devine. All in favor? Aye. Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Deborah?
Good evening, Al Evangelista, Pompton Lakes Emergency Management Coordinator. If I may, I had spoken to Captain Begg the other day about giving a report, as he does with police, fire, and first aid, because I like that. So what I am going to do is submit him monthly reports. But in lieu of tonight, because this evening I'm trying to do a little bit of catch-up, and I want to bring to the attention of the council and the public what goes on out there in the world of OEM. First of all, I'd like to make a comment about the trees as well. I know that the shade tree does a tremendous job. They're very, very thorough, and every decision is calculated, etc. I would also like you to know that Randy Hinton touches base with me about every tree from the perspective of it being a public safety hazard. Forget about how mature it is, forget how beautiful it is, how tall it is. I feel like Councilwoman Kent does. I don't want to see any tree come down. But when a tree becomes unsafe, and when it's going to present a problem in a storm, okay, whether it be a winter storm, a hurricane, a tropical storm, then we have to think about life safety first. So every time I get a call from Randy, I know one of the questions are going to be, have you seen this tree on such and such? For example, the tree that came down in the storm there by James Terrace and Hammer Turnpike. Huge tree. County took it away, thank God, for free. It was on the county right away. That type of tree is just waiting to be an accident. If you remember many years ago in Wayne, the fire chief was sitting next to a police officer in a car in Packanack Lake, and they were talking to each other, and a tree came down across both cars, hitting them both, okay, and severely injuring the police officer. We don't want to see that happen in Pompton Lakes. So when a tree starts dropping leaves, and not leaves, branches and twigs, okay, and these on Colfax we're doing it. We had our eye on these trees for a couple of years now. That means that the tree is starting to fail. It's on the road to failure. Now, he brings in the arborist. Nothing is done without that. I know that. And they check it out. I had a tree in front of my house on the public right away. Tree was healthy, was blooming every year, but the guy came and he put a rod right into the tree, and through the tree it was hollow in the center. And I would have never known it, and the general public wouldn't. So every tree that's taken down, I know, is given its due as far as public safety and most importantly is concerned. The other area I'll tell you right now is Rampo Ave, where it meets Whitney. Okay, there's a beautiful canopy of trees there. There's about 3 or 4, but every storm we get a tremendous amount of debris in the roadway off of those. And it's not sustained winds. I mentioned this in my presentation to the community. It's not sustained winds, it's the wind gusts when you get those trees rocking, and that's when they fail. All right, so very quickly, starting back in January, our CERT team is equipped with Zello. Zello is an app on a telephone. I may have mentioned this. That's how they communicate in an emergency, even though we have radios in the field com truck to give each CERT member. But they can be up and running in a heartbeat on Zello. And we've used that successfully. We had a drill on January 20th. I met with a new OEM coordinator in Pequannock. They got a new gentleman over there, is a retired career firefighter, captain out of Passaic City Fire Department, and we sat and we talked for a couple hours about cooperation between the two communities, which is what we want, especially with our downstream communities. So that took off very well. As a matter of fact, I know they're applying for storm-ready community as we have in Pompton Lakes, which will give us another, another avenue for improvement. We activated our EOC right here during that February snowstorm. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have to make 2 reports a day to the state police and the County Office of Emergency Management during the storm. We got to tell them how many plows are on the road, how many assaulters are on the road, how many police patrols are on the road. They want to know this, and they put it into their database, and they shake it out, and that's how they get funding and so forth, back to not only themselves but to us. Most of you may know that we got a call from AccuWeather, and I arranged a newscast between our Flood Advisory Board Chairwoman, Lauren Bennett. She did an awesome job speaking to this gentleman about flooding problems in Pompton Lakes and how, through the efforts of the mayor and council and our residents, we have improved our situations just by regular river maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. So very, very happy about that. We had that Quarry River tie fire. We had a regional mutual aid sit down of fire chiefs and OEM coordinators from those affected communities to see what we could do to plan in advance. Okay, if you ride 287 north through our town, the 8 or 9/10 of a mile that we have,
it's not a lot.
You'll see 3 hydrant signs out there, which have been there since it opened in 1992. That's where our fire department would throw hoses over the gabion wall and access hydrants in our community down in the parking lots of those condo units along that highway. So we have had that in place for years. We couldn't use it that night because of the proximity of where the river tie fire was in relationship to those hydrants. But the plan is there, and it's a viable plan. I was asked to present to the New Jersey State Federation of Women's Clubs. I was very pleased. They told me it was because we have an excellent program in Pompton Lakes, especially in the area of preparedness and mitigation with emergency management, and I thank you for your support of that, and our residents, and all our boards, our flood board and all lake restoration. Everybody plays into how well we do as a community in these areas, and I just want to thank everybody for that. And it went over very well. It was a virtual meeting, and we got a lot of good comments and a lot of good questions from people. Just so you know, we have 5 borough generators that service our buildings, including WGHT, and the new number that goes by the call sign. Those are regularly serviced quarterly. Okay, I know sometimes people come up to me and they say, when's the last time that generator was checked? They're on a regular schedule, which is in our budget, and they're scheduled quarterly for service and maintenance, and the transfer switch operation when it switches over, which everybody here at Borough Hall hates, okay, because sometimes if you don't save your work on a computer, you might lose it. But in any event, I want you to know that, not saying that there can't be a problem any given day along the way when we have to get the company in here, which we will do, but we have that level of preparedness. Our MUA, every single well, every single pump station is on generators, so they have their act together down there. You saw our emergency preparedness seminar. It was virtual and also taped and shown on Channel 77, something we do every year for our community. We had 2 Passaic County OEM coordinators meetings already this year. We have them quarterly. Good things are brought up. We did it virtually, no meetings yet. But I just want to announce that Mary Ann Tromlin, who's been the deputy coordinator for Passaic County for close to 40 years, Bill? Yeah. She's retiring September 1st. So I want to wish her well publicly. And Mayor, if I may ask you maybe a letter of thanks for her services to our community, I'll send that down to her. I know she'd be very appreciative of that, and we wish Mary Ann well. Let's see, virtual FEMA meeting, 2-hour meeting on amateur radio, which we have in our town. We have a lot of licensed amateur people, several of them on our CERT team, and its importance in major disasters. Because in major disasters, particularly down in the tornado zone, tornado belt, the Midwest, amateur radio is paramount. It's so important because it's an avenue when all other communications, cell phones, landlines are out, that will work. So FEMA did a nice presentation on that, and we do have amateur radio in this building that we can communicate with the outside world if and when we needed to. Confined space. Every utility in a town like our MUA has to name the agency that's going to be their rescue backup in the event that they have a person in a manhole and he gets injured or trapped, who's going to come and rescue him. Our fire department is and always has been that person or that group or organization. So we are going to have a drill. We have one already in the lift station. We're going to have one next Monday night at a manhole on Riverdale Boulevard, which we're using because it's a shallow manhole, and we're going to be practicing removing victims from that with the fire department.
Who do we throw into the manhole to rescue?
Anybody that wants to volunteer.
I volunteer the mayor.
So we'll see. We'll pick the numbers out of a hat. We'll see who that's going to be. All right, National Weather Service have a number of webinars that I participated in. They have changed the whole outlook of their site. If you go to NWS, Google that and go to their website, you'll see they've made it more user-friendly for the lay people, okay, for the lay person, and they go onto that site that doesn't understand all those technical terms that they use. So they really made a big effort to go in that direction so the general public will access it more, become familiar with it, know how to look up information, help themselves, instead of relying all the time on the community and the government. All right, I participated last Thursday in a virtual class, 6 hours, on community risk reduction. And I was very pleased. As much as you don't want to sit in a class and say, I already know this stuff, it was nice to sit there and say, our borough already does this stuff. You know what I mean? Whether it be police, fire, EMS, CERT, borough administration, mayor and council, whatever, we met many, if not all, the objectives. So that's a good thing to see, and it certainly shows in our evaluation that we get from the state. All right, I went down to the Wayne site last week on Friday and met with the OEM coordinator and their CERT coordinator who was running the Wayne vaccination site. That is wrapping up, as the mayor said. I think they have 2 more Fridays they're going to go. We've had a tremendous number of CERT volunteers go down to Wayne to volunteer their time, and I want to thank them publicly. They are also going to get recognition from the state police, Office of Emergency Management. They just sent an email today. They want to know who these people are and how many hours they put in, which Deborah Ross tracks to the letter. Okay, she does a tremendous job in tracking all of their activities, and the state has given us kudos for that. So we'll be sending that down to the state. I know the mayor already mentioned some type of award or certificate in the borough, acknowledging their accomplishments because they were a big asset to the township of Wayne down there. And the captain told me, the captain that runs it, Captain Daly, he said there were days that if they didn't have our people down there, there would have been, problems in the chain, so to speak, going through. So I'm very, very glad that our people stepped up to the plate. We're going to host a regional transit meeting, the New Jersey Transit for train accidents at the high school on June 28th. We've invited all the area departments, and even though we don't have New Jersey Transit, we have a train. NYSNW, a train is a train, a locomotive is a locomotive. We're subject to the same emergencies and disasters that they could have. As a matter of fact, more, because we're not transporting passengers. On our train, we transport a certain amount of hazardous materials as well. All right, we know what they are. We have them all cataloged. We drill, we plan, but it's going to be a good scenario because anything like that would be a mutual aid situation. We'd be calling in other towns, or we could get called to Wayne that has New Jersey Transit. So if you're available and you want to stop in, it's going to be an in-person meeting at the high school auditorium on June 28th, starting at 7 p.m. sharp. 2 more things, and then I'm done. Our Passaic County Hazardous Mitigation Plan has been approved by FEMA. It's now on file in the borough. The 2 volumes are here in the records room. If you ever want to inspect them, I know our Flood Advisory Board looks at their portion of that plan that they have a lot of input on. I want to thank Liz and Kathy for the job that they did, putting that together and working with all these different, agencies like OEM and so forth in getting the information that they need to put that plan together. The other thing I've mentioned is our Emergency Operations Plan, which has 15 separate annexes: law enforcement, fire, EMS, rescue, health department, on and on and on. 15 of them, social services. That plan was just totally reviewed and updated and submitted to the county and state police. We'll be awaiting that for now our next 4-year review, and we're hoping it goes through without incident. We think we have everything in it that we needed to do, and that will be submitted. I want to thank Sharon Sun for the work that she did putting that together, doing all the computer work, the insertion of the different updates and so forth. It's a lot of work that goes into the revision of that plan, as Councilman Bay knows. So very, very happy that everybody came together. They all got their annexes back in time, and we're good to go. So that's my report up till now, and then next month, or whenever next month, I'll give you some information. So thank you very much. I appreciate
Look,
it.
we benefit from the experience of the years you have working in town here. So that is a benefit to the borough, you know. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we have residents that haven't gone through some events that are new to this.
Very true.
And, you know, we have the experience of the teams of people like you and our fire department that have gone through this and know what's going on. So that's a great asset to our residents. So we thank you for being here for that many years. That's why when I saw the retirement word, I said, oh, look, he's retired.
It's my pleasure. You know, when things go well, it's nice to be a part of it. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion.
Councilwoman Palidori, Councilman Begg. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Privilege of the floor. Anybody have privilege of the floor?
I have one quick thing, Mayor.
Oh, can you just mention
Okay, two quick things. One thing is, I think it was announced before that the EPA is coming back and having in-person meetings. They were going to be scheduled for tomorrow, here at the municipal building, between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. However, the staff member that was going to be here had a last-minute family emergency and will be unable to be there tomorrow. And Pat went on to say they will have someone on Thursday, May 27th. So that will be the first day. Their goal is to get back to weekly meetings starting in June.
Okay.
The second thing is I wanted to actually recognize Katie Vennon, who's sitting in the back of the room, and her Girl Scout colleagues. She had put together for something about Air Quality Awareness Week. It's okay that she's not paying attention. But
She's got earphones. She doesn't want to listen to us.
That's what it is. So besides that, her and a couple of her Girl Scout colleagues put together something on air quality awareness, and actually our local transactions, our local Transportation Management Association that shared it with Transoption. They broadcast it. It was a great piece of information. I definitely, hopefully it's been shared a little bit more, but just wanted to, give her and her fellow Girl Scouts a little bit of public kudos for putting together that video and sharing that information. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I just want to thank Al Evangelista, because you just spoke about 10 projects and programs that I never even realized that we had. And I don't know how you do it, but I've known you for 25, 30 years, and you do an amazing job. And anybody who works with you will say that. So I want to thank you very much for everything you contribute, for everything. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, motion to adjourn. Okay, thank you, everyone.